In this lecture, I'll discuss the role, scope, and importance of English as an international language in ELT. In the beginning, I'll talk about what English as an international language is. In this regard, let's try to define an international language. There is a popular misconception that an international language is the one which is spoken by a large majority of the people. Well, if we look at the facts, this is not correct. An international language is one which is spoken by a vast majority of the people who are not native to it. I mean, people speaking that language who have another native tongue. From another perspective, to be considered as an international language, a language has to be above a certain culture or nationality. This language or an international language must be accepted by the people from various cultures and nations. Therefore, the linguists and the researchers in the field of English as an international language need to redefine the relationship between language and culture, which was a part of traditional ELT research. There might be certain characteristics of an international language. At first, we can see that this is spoken by the people of different nationalities. It is above the cultural and national attributes of a particular country or nation, and its ownership must be denationalized. That means a particular country should not claim its ownership solely belonging to itself. Rather, it should belong to more than one nation, rather many nations. And the goal of its education of an international language should be to educate people and to enable them to communicate and to share their culture with the people living across the world. In this regard, if we look at the map of this world, we see that English language has emerged an international language in the previous century. It is used by many people across the world for their official and international contact communicative situations. Special roles of English in the domestic and in international lives of the people of various nations have been recognized by the policymakers and educationists across the world by recognizing this language either as an international language or as an official language or a language which is being taught in education institutes as a foreign language. In this regard, if we have to look at the spread of English in the recent world, Catchru's three-centric model might be helpful. If you just look at this picture, you will find there are three circles down here, and the innermost circle is inner circle. And according to Catchru's explanation, inner circle of English-speaking countries belong to the native speakers of English. I mean, those countries where those people live whose native or mother tongue is English. Among these countries, we can see we have UK, USA, Australia, New Zealand. In the outer circle are those countries which previously were colonial societies, and within these societies, English penetrated during that colonial era. Later on, these countries developed some domestic, international and official roles for English language, and English language is still persisting in these societies in various spheres of life. The outer and the most outer, as far this picture is concerned, is the expanding circle. This circle includes those countries where there were apparently no colonial history, and they recognized English for its international communicative value, and they included English in their educational systems as a foreign language. One of the few important countries among these are China, Egypt, Indonesia, Japan, and Korea. Some of the characteristics of these circles explained by the Catchru are: the expanding circle consists of approximately 500 to 1,000 million English language users, and most of them are those who use English as a foreign language. It belongs to the countries, as I mentioned earlier, who had no previous UK colonial past, and these are norm dependent. They do not develop their own norms of using English, rather they are dependent on the native speakers who are the norm providers. In the outer circle, we can see here that there are approximately 300 to 500 million English language users, and most of them, according to Catchru, are those who use English as a second language. And most of these countries and nations are those which were previously colonial dependencies, and they are norm developing. By that we mean that they are developing their own norm of using English in various spheres of life. Inner circle is one that belongs to the native speakers, as I mentioned earlier, and this consists of approximately 320 to 380 million English language users, and they provide norm according to traditional ELT perspective. They provide norms to other users of English in outer and expanding circle. There have been certain criticisms on Catchru's model. For example, you can see in expanding circles there are few countries who were actually not previous colonial states. Rather, they developed a liking for English later on, or for their own reasons. Similarly, we see that this model ignores a new dominant function of English language, that is English as a lingua franca. Rather, it reduces language to different compartments. It also implies uniformity of English language, or the circles within of various countries within a certain circle. For example, people in outer circles or the nation in outer circles are treated equally. But we can see that the spread of English in these countries in various circles is not equal. There could possibly be few countries where the roles of English are greater than others. Similarly, we can see that there are some gray areas between these circles. For example, we can see the development of English as an international language, where the people from outer circles are claiming their own ownership to English language. And similarly, as the roles of English are increasing in various nations, we can see that various countries in expanding circles are now reaching the status of outer circle.